Silencer is a first-of-its-kind plugin that supercharges your existing reverbs and takes your sound design and mixes to the next level. Silencer's Timegate module enhances the clarity and intelligibility of vocals, instruments, and full mixes by completely resetting the reverb on each note. Unlike ducking or gating, which only alter the output level of the reverb, Silencer clears out whatever has built up in your reverb's buffer. Its additional smart effects let you refine the sound of your reverb effortlessly and create unique and powerful effect chains. In this video, we will give you a comprehensive guide on using Silencer to improve your productions. Before we explore Silencer's individual features, let's first get an overview of the plugin and learn how to set it up. It is essential to understand that Silencer is not a reverb plugin. Instead, it allows you to host your reverbs from other manufacturers and enhance them using the built-in tools. So once you have installed and activated Silencer, the first thing to do is to scan and add your VST reverbs and effects. To access your VSTs, run a plugin scan by clicking on Scan. After the scan, Silencer will show you a list of plugins which are divided into two categories, reverbs and effects. Select the reverbs and effects you would like to use in Silencer. You can always customize this list later and add or remove individual plugins. If you select a reverb from the list, Silencer automatically checks if it's compatible with its retrigger function. The yellow dot next to the plugin's name indicates that this test is still running. If you want to run the test entirely, wait until the dot disappears before selecting another plugin. If it turns out that a plugin cannot be retriggered, a red dot will appear next to its name and Silencer will inform you about the failed test. You can still use this plugin in Silencer, but the retrigger function will be unavailable. More than 90% of the reverb plugins on the market already work with Silencer's cutting-edge retriggering function, and we work tirelessly to further increase the number of supported plugins. If the reverb of your choice is not supported yet, don't hesitate to contact us and we will get in touch with the manufacturer. You can load and save presets, open and edit your preset folders, and adjust the size of the interface with the drop-down menu in the top bar. The GUI size setting affects Silencer, but not the hosted plugin. If you resize that, Silencer will automatically adjust. To lock the plugin that is currently loaded in the Timegate module, press Lock Reverb. This way you can browse and audition different effect chains with the same reverb. Presets will never affect Silencer's main panel controls, so once you've set up your retriggering and mix balance, you can freely browse presets without messing anything up. To mute the entire plugin, press the Silencer logo. If you press Disable, you can hear what the reverb would sound like on its own without Silencer. Use the mix control to crossfade between the dry signal and the reverb. From 0 to 50%, the reverb is faded in while the dry signal stays the same. From 51 to 100%, the wet signal stays the same while the dry signal fades out. Note that the Reverb plugin's internal mix control is deactivated when you use it in Silencer. The Reverb knob controls the level at which the dry signal is sent to the reverb. You can create dramatic risers and transitions by automating the reverb control in your DAW. Nothing brings a vocal, drum beat, or a synth to life like a beautiful, lush reverb. One potential problem, especially with large reverbs, is that reverb tails overlap and build up acoustic energy. This can result in an unpleasant wall of resonant noise that drowns out the original sound and clutters up the mix. While techniques like sidechain compression, gating, and EQing can improve this, none of them fully solve the issue. This is where Timegate comes into play, Silencer's central feature. Timegate analyzes the incoming signal and completely resets the reverb with every new drum beat or note. This gives you easy access to mix and sound design techniques that were previously only possible with a tedious amount of automation. Let's explore how this works. Timegate sits at the very top of the effects chain on the left. To load a reverb into Timegate, select a plugin from the list. Click on the circle icon to swap it for another reverb. Once you play a sound, you will now see the indicator light up. This means it detected a signal and triggered Timegate, which resets the reverb. To make the difference clear, turn off the trigger sensor with the switch below the indicator. This is how that same reverb sounds without Timegate. And with it. Since Timegate resets the reverb with every new drum beat, nothing piles up and the mix remains clean and transparent. Timegate can not only improve a mix, but also serve as a creative effect. For example, to give sounds an instant sample-like quality. Audio triggering is just one of 3 ways to control Timegate. We will explore all 3 methods in the following chapters. As we just learned, Timegate resets the reverb every time a trigger occurs. In audio trigger mode, the incoming audio is analyzed and Timegate is triggered whenever it detects a signal. You can adjust the sensitivity of the audio trigger detection in the trick control section. If you raise the threshold, only very loud impulses will trigger Timegate. If you lower the threshold, it will also react to quieter sounds. With hold, you can set the time that has to pass until Timegate can be triggered again. At lower hold settings, the trigger sensor immediately listens for the next impulse, reacting more dynamically and accurately to faster material. At higher hold values, Timegate ignores incoming signals for a while, so it takes longer until the reverb is reset again. This can be useful to avoid too frequent triggering of fast and lively percussion or vocals, which could lead to an unstable sound. Of course, high hold values and slower retriggering can also be used deliberately for creative sound design. The switch below hold opens up the advanced trigger options. With hysteresis control, you can set the threshold that the incoming signal has to fall below before a new trigger can occur. As long as it remains above this level, no new triggers will be generated. The default setting works 99% of the time, but in case you do get any issues with false triggers, you can adjust it. With the sidechain filter, you can limit the frequency range to which Timegate reacts. When full is selected, Timegate reacts to the entire signal, no matter if the incoming sound is a low kick drum, a mid-heavy snare, or a high-frequent hi-hat. If you activate the low-pass filter and you set it to a frequency, only sounds below that frequency can trigger Timegate. Everything above will be ignored. So now the kick drum resets the reverb, but the snare does not. The high-pass filter works just like that, but the other way around. Here, Silencer only listens to sounds above the frequency you select. Now the snare drum resets the reverb, but the kick is ignored. Note that the sidechain filters do not change the sound of the dry signal or the reverb. They only control the frequency range that Timegate focuses on when listening for signals. Audio triggers work well with simpler, tidier signals, but more complex, dense material can push automatic trigger detection to its limits. To achieve precise reverb resets even with fast and complex beats and sequences, Silencer offers MIDI triggering, activated by clicking on the MIDI button. The advanced audio triggering settings disappear as they serve no purpose in MIDI mode. The reverb is now reset whenever Silencer receives any MIDI note. MIDI triggering gives us some great options. If we use Silencer on an instrument that we play over MIDI, we can send the same MIDI data to Silencer to get perfect triggers on every single note. We can also trigger Silencer independently from whatever is running through it by sending MIDI from a different channel to the plugin. Triggers can also be played live or recorded by using a MIDI or computer keyboard. Please refer to your DAW's manual on how to send MIDI to an audio plugin. Another approach of using MIDI with Silencer can be to use audio to MIDI converters, which are built into many DAWs or tools like Melodyne. The third method to control Timegate is the trigger button. Just click it to reset the reverb. You can record manual triggers as automation data in your DAW or draw them in. Instead of clicking the button with your mouse, use the MIDI learn function of your DAW to assign it to a button or key. Note that the trigger button works on its own as well as in addition to audio or MIDI triggers. In addition to Timegate, Silencer comes with 3 built-in effects to enhance and refine the sound of your reverb. To add an effect to the effect chain, press the plus icon. In total, the effect chain can contain up to 8 effects. You can freely move them up and down in the effect chain. Note that Timegate always sits at the top. Effects have an on-off switch to bypass them. To remove an effect or replace it with a different one, click on the X icon. In addition to the built-in effects, you can add any VST audio effect from your collection to the effects chain. Note that the drop-down menu only contains plugins that you have activated in the Plugin Manager. Click on the small icon in the upper right corner and select which VSTs you want to see in your effects list. In the following chapters, we will explore Silencer's 3 included effect modules. The strip module contains 3 tools to refine the sound of your reverb. Weight emphasizes the low end for heavier and punchier bass. Air freshens up the treble and adds presence and crispness to any signal. Weight and air are based on the circuitry of a popular studio maximizer that increases the presence of signals by using dynamic equalization and a multiband delay. The gate limits the reverb tail. It uses the dry signal for detection, giving your reverb a punchier sound. Spread pans the dry and wet signal to opposite directions, which is a great way to create space in your mix. If you turn the knob to the left, the dry signal pans to the left, but the reverb pans to the right. The opposite happens if you turn it to the right. The dry sound now moves to the right side, but the reverb wanders to the left. This technique adds width and dimension to the mix. It fills up the stereo panorama and carves out space in the middle for other sounds such as drums or vocals. Sometimes a reverb clashes with the critical frequencies of the incoming signal. Instead of improving the dry sound, it clouds or masks it, reducing the transparency of the mix. Silencer's focus EQ significantly increases the clarity by attenuating the problematic frequency range in the reverb and optionally boosting it in the dry signal at the same spot. Wet dip sets the amount of attenuation. This only affects the reverb signal. With the 2x switch, you can double the amount of dip to achieve even stronger effects. Choose the frequency with Freak. The slope of the EQ is set with Q. Focus EQ sounds best with a wide, gentle Q, which we have set for you by default. With dry boost, you can additionally raise the level of the dry signal in the same frequency range for even more clarity. The third effect module in Silencer is Sidechain. This Sidechain compressor ducks the reverb's level whenever a signal comes in. Sidechain helps transients stand out and adds movement and groove to the reverb signal. It's very useful to retain the punchy transients of drums and make sure they really cut through. The threshold controls how much a sound is cut when a signal arrives. The release knob not only sets how long it takes the signal to return to its original level, but also affects the attack a bit, so you can use it to dial in different flavors of sidechain movement. The high and low pass filters help you fine-tune the detection circuit by telling Silencer which frequencies to listen to in the dry signal. If we set the low pass to 50 or 100 Hz, the sidechain compressor will ignore any signal above that frequency. It will now only be triggered by sounds that contain bass, like a kick drum, and ignore sounds with a higher frequency profile, such as hi-hats. If we activate and set the high pass filter, the snare now triggers the sidechain, but the kick no longer does. Besides the technical advantage of isolating drum transients from the reverb signal, Sidechain can also be used as a creative effect to add a pumping groove. In addition to Timegate and Silencer's built-in effects, you can also add any VST audio plugin from your collection to the effects chain to twist and refine your reverb. Note that VST plugins in the effects chain only affect the reverb signal and not the dry sound. To add effects to your list, click on the edit icon in the upper right corner and activate the VSTs of your choice as effects. With Timegate, Strip, Focus EQ, Sidechain, and individual VSTs, Silencer lets you build unique and powerful effect chains that breathe new life into your reverb plugins. Save your favorite creations as presets and load them in other projects to recall custom, complex reverb setups in a breeze. We hope this video helps you elevate your production to the next level with Silencer. Thanks for watching and see you soon.